topic is conjugate elements. So this is very important topic. So what is the definitions? So let G be a sum group. G be a sum group and A and B, any two element belongs to G. So define a relation. Define a relation this on G. So what is the relation? The relation is these two elements A and B, these are related to B if and only if there exists some x belongs to G such that this A is equal to x inverse Bx. This A is equal to x inverse Bx. Then it means we define this relation on G. And in this case, we say A is conjugate to B. So A is conjugate to B if there exists a x belongs to G such that A equal to x inverse A, x inverse Bx. So this element is our conjugate elements. Now this conjugate relation on G is an equivalence relation. Now my next step is that this relation is an equivalence relation. So to prove the equivalence relation, step number 1. So this is a reflexive property. So what it means? It means to prove that any element related to itself. It means A is related to A. So just think at the rough work. A is related to A means A should be equal to E inverse A into E. We can write A in this way. So it means A is related to these values. So this can also be related that written as this since A is some element, this element can be written as E inverse A into A into E. So what it means? It means this A is related to A. Also, we can also write it as A is equal to A inverse A into A. Also, I used, so since for every now since for every A element I can write it as A inverse A into A. So this will become identity and this will equal to A. So it implies A is related to A. For every A belongs to G. So it means it satisfies the reflexive property. So what is the reflexive property? If every element of A, G is conjugate to itself, then it is a reflexive property. Now property number 2, which is called symmetry. So symmetry property, what it means? It means if A is related to B, then it implies B is related to A. So I take two element A and B, it belongs to G, such that A is related to B. A is conjugate to B. So by definition, if A is conjugate to B, so there exists some X belongs to G such that this A can be written as X inverse Bx. So it implies, just when we multiply by X on this side, so this value will become XA, which is equal to Bx. Now we multiply by X inverse on right hand side, so this can be written as XA X inverse, which is equal to B. So it implies this B can be written as X inverse raised to power inverse into A into X inverse. So it satisfies the condition. So since X inverse is a element of G, so this implies this B is conjugate to A, because it satisfies this condition. If B is conjugate to A, then it satisfies the symmetry property, because I take A is conjugate to B and I prove B is conjugate to A, so it satisfies the symmetry property. After that, the third property, so which is called a transitive property. So which is called a transitive property. Transitive property. So what is a transitive property? Now I take three elements A, B and C. It belongs to G, such that A is conjugate to B and B is conjugate to C. So by definition, it implies there exists X and Y belongs to G such that A can be written as X inverse B into X and B can be written as Y inverse C into Y, these values. So it implies this A can be written as X inverse and this is X. So what is the value of B? So value of B is Y inverse into C into Y, these values. So by using this property, this is a X inverse Y inverse C into YX. So this can be written as XY. So this can be written as YX inverse C into YX. So A can be written in this way. Now since X is element of G, Y is element of G, so it implies A is related to C, since this product Y into X, this is a element belongs to G. So what it means? It means A is related to C. So it proves the transitive property. It means this relation that we defined on G is an equivalence relation. So it means this relation on G is an equivalence relation. So if it is an equivalence relation, then we can divide the G into equivalence classes. So we can divide the G into disjoint equivalent classes. So G can be partitioned into disjoint equivalence classes. So what is the equivalence classes? So first check. So classes of A, so this is written in this way. So this is the equivalence classes. So it means it consisting all X belongs to G such that X is conjugate to A, this values. Now using the definition, what it means? It means X belongs to G such that X can be written as, because it is conjugate, so it can be written as C inverse AC for some C, for C belongs to G, right, this value. So what it means? It means X is of this kind for every C belongs to G. So its element are C inverse AC such that for every C belongs to G. So class of A, these class consisting such kind of elements. Now because this is a equivalence class on a group G, so we can divide into disjoint equivalence classes. So this G can be divide into disjoint equivalence classes. So we can divide it into disjoint equivalence classes. It means G can be written as union of class of A where A is a member of G. So these are the disjoint equivalence classes. So remember that. Now to prove some remark, just some fundamental result. Now this is show that, so first show that if class of A consisting only one element, which is a, so class of A consisting one element, if and only if this A belongs to center of G, this A belongs to center of G. So first remember this result. Now solution, remember that this result. Now what is the solution? Class of A. So this is a part. Now suppose class of A, it consisting only one element A. So what it means? It means its element are set of X inverse AX such that X belongs to G. So what it means? It is a set consisting only one element. So what it means? It means X inverse AX, which is equal to A for every X belongs to G. It means, now what it means? If we multiply, pre-multiply by X, so we get AX, which is equal to AX is equal to XA for every X belongs to G. So what it means? It means this A belongs to center of G because it commute with every member of G. So A belongs to center of G. So it is my first part. So reverse part. So reverse in this way. So what we get? We get class of A consisting A element. So remember that if class of A consisting only one element A, then A belongs to center of G. So again remember, if A belongs to center of G, then this class consisting only this element, only itself, it consisting only itself. So this is very important result. Now next remark is, if G is abelian, if and only if class of A consisting A element. So second is, first G is abelian group. So this is a abelian group. If it is a abelian group, if and only if this class of A consisting only one element A, right? So since this G is a abelian group, so we know that it implies G becomes a center of G, because center of G is a set of all element which commute to all element of G. So G belongs to center of G. So we already proved that if A belongs to, it implies A belongs to center of G for every A belongs to G. If I am taking any element from G, so it belongs to center of G. So if it belongs to center of G, then class of A consisting only one element, A element. So this is if and only if, this is again if and only if. So it is again if and only if. So what we get, if G is abelian group, then class of A consisting only one element, A element. So this is my result. Now after that, if G is equal to, if G is abelian, then we prove that. Now again, if normalizer of A, so it implies for next result, for next remark, so what is the normalizer of any element A? So what is A? A is some element belongs to G. So it means normalizer mean all X belongs to G such that which commute with A. So it means AX and XA, they are equal. So remember that AX and XA are equal. Now what is my aim? My aim is normalizer of A is equal to G. This is G if and only if A belongs to center of G. So that is my result. If normalizer is a total set, if normalizer is a total set, then it means A belongs to G, right? So what we get, it implies if X belongs to G, so what is G? G is normalizer of A, right? Then it implies AX is equal to XA from this, because X belongs to normalizer of A. So what it means? It means this X is related to X, A is X is, then it means that this A is commute with every element of G. If A commute every element of A, G, then A belongs to center of G. So that is my result. So it means if NA equal to G, so A belongs to center of G. If A belongs to center of G, then NA equal to G. So this is my result. So these are the basic fundamental of this equation. Now from this we will derive a very important equation which is called a class equation. So how we will prove that? So that is a class equation for a finite group. So first of, before going to class equation, so I am taking this theorem. So what is the statement of this theorem? Very important result. So this is the statement: let G be a finite group. G be a finite group. Finite group. So we already know that G is a finite group. Then order of class of A, that we already find that conjugate class, which is equal to order of G over order of normalizer of A. So remember that this value. Also it is the index of Na in G. Also we can say that it is the index of Na in G. So remember here that. Now solution. So what is Na? Na is a normalizer of any element. If it is a normalizer of any element, so we know that this is the index of Na in G. So we know that Na is a subgroup of group G. So first what is our part? So let Na, what is this? This is a normalizer of A. This normalizer of A is a subgroup of group G, right? So just see that the relation, it is a index of Na in G. So first, what is right hand side? Right hand side is index of Na in G. It means it is the number of distinct coset of Na in G, right? And what is the left hand side? It is a class of A. It is the element of class of A. So remember. So first I take Na is a subgroup of group G. So G can be expressed as union of disjoint right coset of Na in G. So it implies what is G? So G can be expressed as, disjoint coset of Na in G. So what is the, I am taking Na into Xi. I is running from 1 to T, right, this way. So where these are, where Na into x1, Na into x2, and so on, Na into xt. These are only disjoint, remember that, only disjoint right coset of Na in G. These are distinct and disjoint. These are distinct or disjoint right coset of Na in G. So remember that. Now it implies G can be written in this way. So this way, because Na is a subgroup of group G. So the left hand side, which is a class of A, so see that the element in the class of A, So what is the class of A? So first check. So class of A consisting element X inverse into A into X such that X belongs to G. So this is a class of A. So its element are of this side. If I prove that it has only T element, if it has only T elements, T distinct element of this kind in class of A, so I take a S set. What is that? So this is of distinct element of this kind. So which is x1 inverse ax1. This is x1. This is x2. So second element x2 inverse ax2 and so on corresponding to this xt inverse a into xt. So what is my purpose? My purpose is these are the distinct element. To prove these are the distinct element. So how we will prove that? So I take any two element from this which are equal. Suppose I am taking xi inverse axi which is equal to xj inverse axj for I is not equal to j. So I am taking these are distinct. To prove these are distinct, so I take two element from this. If I am taking two element from this, so this can be written as it implies. So this will be shifted to this place. So this will become a xi xj square and this will be shifted at this place. So that is post multiply by xj inverse and pre multiply by xi. So what we get? We get a xi xj inverse which is equal to xi xj inverse into a. So what it get? This element commute with a. If this element commute with a, it means this element belongs to normalizer of a. So if it commute with a, it belongs to normalizer of a by using the definition of normalizer of a. Now again using the definition of if HA is equal to HB, if and only if AB inverse belongs to H. Using this concept, so it implies NA XI which is equal to NA XJ. Now these are distinct. So these are distinct because which is a contradiction. If they are not distinct, if they are not equal, so which is a contradiction? Which is contradiction? Why contradiction? Because these coset are distinct. Here they are equal. So which is contradiction? It means they cannot be equal. If they cannot be equal, then every element of S are distinct. Then every element of S are distinct. Every element of S are distinct. If every element of S are distinct, then it implies order of S is equal to T. Order of S is equal to T. If order of S is equal to T, now from equation number 1, what we get? Also from equation number 1, what is order of G? Order of G, which is equal to order of normalizer of A into T. So again it get T is equal to order of G over order of NA. So this values order of NA. So from this we get the value of T from equation number 1 and also from this equation. So what we get now, T is equal to order of S, T is equal to this values. So we get from this is written as equation number 2. So it implies T, which is equal to order of S, which is equal to order of G over order of normalizer of A. This values. So I write it as equation number 2. Now my aim is to prove that in class of A is equal to S. Then I come to my result if I prove our claim S and class of A, these are equal. Class of A, these are equal. So we already proved distinct. Now my aim is to prove that the every element of class A are a member of S. So simple. Now first part is trivial. So since S is a part of class of A, that is trivial. Now clearly we know that this S is contained in class of A. So this is clearly. If I take any element that is conjugate to A, then that element belongs to class of A. Now converse part, let Y is some element belongs to class of A. So what is it means? It means this Y is related to A. If this Y is related to A, then it implies Y is conjugate to A. So Y can be written as G inverse A into G, where G is some element belongs to capital G. So remember that it belongs to element belongs to capital G, right? Now since G belongs to capital G, by equation number 1, since G belongs to capital G, number 1, and by equation number 1, what is G? G is a union of normalizer of A into xi. So I is running from 1 to T. Then it implies G belongs to one of these coset. So it implies G belongs to normalizer of A into xi for some I, which lies between T and 1, right? G belongs to this values. It means G is of this kind. G is of Cxi kind, where C belongs to normalizer of A. If C belongs to normalizer of A, then it means CA and AC are equal. From this what we get? We get CA is equal to AC because it belongs to this values. C belongs to normalizer of A. If normalizer of A, then the value of C is of this kind. Now substitute this CXI, the value of A, at this place. So this is a Y. So I am talking about Y. So this G is CXI. So just substitute this value of G at this place. So what we get? We get Y, which is equal to G inverse. So which is CXI inverse, and then it is a and then it is a CXI. Remember that. So by this law, reversal law, XI inverse C inverse AC into XI, this values. Now at this place, from this, at this place, AC is equal to CA. From this, what we get? We get A is equal to C inverse AC. So substitute this value at this place. We get XI inverse A into XI. So clearly for some I which lies between 1 and T. So clearly this Y belongs to S. This Y belongs to S. So class of A is part of S. So class of A, which is a part of S. S is already part of class of A. So it means class of A and S are equal. So it implies order of class of A, which is equal to order of S, which is equal to T. So which is equal to order of G by order of NA. So what we get? We get the result, our result, order of class of A, this values, which is equal to order of G over order of normalizer of A, this values. So in this way we can find our result. Now after that we are going to our main equation. So this is called a class equation. So what is the statement of the class equation? So statement is derive class equation for a finite group, for a finite group G, for a finite group G. Now we already proved that, since we know that, so this is a proof of our class equation. So this is very important. So this is expected for the examination. So derive the class equation. So this is very important, main part of our group theory. Now since we know that G is can be written as union of class of A where A belongs to G. We already proved that. So I write it as equation number 1, this values. Now if I am taking in term of order, so order of group G, which is equal to summation of order of class of A, where A belongs to G, right? This values, A belongs to G. Now we know that there are two parts, either A belongs to center of G or A does not belongs to center of G. Means we have this group G and it has some center of G at which all element commute. So this summation is divided into two parts. One part is A belongs to center of G and second part is A does not belongs to center of G. So order of G, which is equal to this summation. What is this summation? This is a order of class of A when A belongs to center of G, that is in yellow color, this values, and plus this values, this is y in white, A does not belongs to center of G, this values. So this is the order of class of equation A. So I write it as equation number 1. Now we prove that if A belongs to center of G, as we know that as A belongs to center of G, it means, it implies if and only if class of A consisting only one element, that is itself element A. So it means if this A belongs to center of G, then this class of A consisting this element. So it implies order of class of A is equal to 1. For one element of center of G, it has one element in class, the concerned class. So what it means? It means summation of order of class of A, this values, A belongs to center of G, it consisting same element as the center of G, same element as the center of G, then it means it is a order of center of G. Clear? So if it is difficult to understand, so just see that if center of G has 3 elements, suppose A1, A2, A3. So it has 3 classes, class of A1, class of A2, class of A3. So it has one element, it has one element, and it has one element. So total elements are 3. So similarly in this case, in the center of G, the total element are 3. So this summation will become the order of center of G when this values A belongs to center of G. So we get the value of this equation. And in other case, we know that order of class of A is equal to order of G bata order of NA. So this can be written as equation number 1 can be written as order of G, which is equal to order of center of G, which is equal to summation. So this is summation and it consisting all element which does not belongs to center of G, this values, and this value is order of G over order of normalizer of A, this values. So this is called a class equation for a finite group. So which is called a, this is called a class equation for a finite group. So in addition to this, understand a one concept also, as we know that A belongs to center of G, it implies normalizer of A and G are equal, as we know that it is if and only if part. It means if A does not belongs to center of G, so it implies G and normalizer of A are not equal. If they are not equal, then class equation can be written as, this class equation can be written as order of G finite group, which is equal to order of center of G, this values, and this can be written as plus summation, this summation order of G over order of normalizer of A. You write here A does not belongs to center of G, this is one value, and also you write also or G is not equal to normalizer of A. So both part have the same meaning. Either you write A does not belongs to center of G or G not equal to normalizer of A. So this is called a class equation. So this is called a class equation for a finite group. So this is very important equation. So this is called class equation for a finite group, G, finite group G. So this is very important equation for applications also.